Well, good morning, boys and girls. Today I am coming to you from the wonderful island of Ocracoke. I'm winding up my training here on the island, and it has been a wonderful experience so far, and I cannot wait to bring back everything that I've learned to the classroom. I learned some really cool activities that we can do with Force of Motion, and we're going to learn even more today. So I look forward to being able to review some of the science standards that we've already covered in some really cool and different ways. But right now I'm kind of sacrificing myself just so that you guys can kind of get a feel for where I'm at and the lovely scenery that's around me. I know my video's small, but here's what I see every day when I wake up. This is the lovely place that I'm staying at. And if you look right above me, there is a map of Ocracoke here. So it's a long, skinny island, pretty much just wide enough for the road to go through. And if you look at the map on the right, that is Ocracoke in relation to North Carolina. And on the right, you'll see Ocracoke. The Ocracoke Lighthouse is marked there with the teal marker. And if you look, this is Highway 101. So that's where you guys are. Down Highway 101, just between that 101 marker and MCAS Cherry Point, Marine Corps Air Station Cherry Point. So you're about right in this area here. So we're not too far apart. But nonetheless, I'm still over here on the island, hanging out, learning some cool things, and I hope you guys are doing your best work and learning some cool things too about cells and living organisms. So just to make sure that you're learning all that you're supposed to, I'm going to go ahead and recap a little bit. So today we're really just going to be focusing on the structure and function related to living things, and we're really going to focus on what ways organisms are able to maintain life. What are the life functions that single-celled and multi-celled organisms can do to maintain life? So just to review, unicellular prefix uni means one. So those are organisms that have only one cell, and they can conduct all of life's processes within that one cell. But if you look, they're like blobs, pretty much. We've got our amoeba, looks like a blob. Bacteria is a little bit more formed, and then your paramecium is like a hairy little blob. But your unicellular organisms are usually small, usually microscopic, and are very blobbish. They flow. Your multicellular organisms are made of many cells. That prefix multi means many, more than one. So these organisms consist of many cells, and that's things like plants and animals and me and you. Also, when we are thinking about unicellular organisms, we also want to remember that unicellular organisms take in materials directly from their surroundings because they're just a blob, so materials move freely around the cell. But multicellular organisms are different because each of their cells are specifically designed to carry out a specific function. For example, my eyes are clearly designed differently than my hair. They look very different. They have different reasons for being there. My skin, my hands look very different from my tongue or my teeth. And that's because they're made up of different types of cells because they have different jobs. My tongue has a very different job than my hands. I cannot taste food with my hands. My hands might get dirty when I eat, but I can't taste food with my hands. We're going to watch a quick little video here about cells. All right, guys, so as you learned in the video, cells are the building blocks for all living things. So think of them as Legos. Each little bitty tiny microscopic cell is one super microscopic tiny Lego. And if something's microscopic, that means you can't see it with just your eyes. So think of bunches and bunches of super tiny microscopic Legos or cells. And when you start connecting those Legos and putting those Legos together, the structure starts to get bigger. And in our human body systems, or all living things, when a cluster of cells come together, a group of cells come together, they make tissues. So as you can see, all these groups of tissues that are clumped together to form the tissues. All these groups of cells that are clumped together to form tissues. And then as you continue to connect those cells and build out that tissue, eventually groups of tissues can form organs. And then within our body, we have many organ systems. So groups of organs then form organ systems. So here you have an example of one lung, but two lungs in your esophagus and your airways. That forms the respiratory system. That is an organ system that is within your body. So you have cells, which are the basic unit of life, and groups of cells form tissues, and then groups of tissues form organs, and then groups of organs form organ systems, and groups of organ systems form the human body or a living thing like a grasshopper or bear or deer or a tree, a live oak tree. There's lots of those out here. They're really cool. I have to show you guys some pictures and stuff when I get back. But remember, today I said we're focusing on the 7 life functions that your single-cellular and multicellular organisms can do. So whether they're a blob or whether they are a very specialized organism like me and you, or plants or animals, that means that they can all conduct these 7 activities in order to live. They can move. Okay? We can all move. They can also respirate. That means that they can breathe. So they can conduct respiration. They can breathe in oxygen, lovely salt air, wonderful, beautiful, and exhale yucky, trash, carbon dioxide. All right. Sensitivity means that we're able to sense surroundings. I'm able to sense and feel that it is cold out here. I'm also able to smell the fresh salt air. So I'm able to sense my surroundings. All living things can sense their surroundings. Nutrition. All living things can find food for energy and digest that food. So yes, it looks very different for plants and me and you, because remember, plants get their energy from sun, but all living things can find food for energy and digest it and process it through their bodies. All living organisms can excrete waste, so they are capable of excretion. They can get rid of waste. Go number 1 and 2 to the bathroom. You're getting rid of that waste, all the things that your body don't need. Also, living organisms can reproduce. They're capable of reproduction. They're capable of making more of themselves. So, that's why we got little baby bear cubs, and you and me, we are reproductions of our parents, and we just learned about that in genetics. You've got trees that produce plant seedlings, and those seedlings fly around and they produce plants elsewhere other than where the parent plant is grown. And lastly, we have growth. You and I have grown a lot physically and mentally this year. I've probably grown out more than I've grown tall, because I'm probably at my limit of growth as far as height goes, but you guys have grown exponentially just this school year, and think of how much you've grown since you've been in elementary school. So all living things are capable of growth. So movement, respiration, sensitivity, nutrition or digestion, excretion, getting rid of that waste, reproduction, and growth.